What made you decide to go to California?
Well, that was an accident. A friend of mine, Crazy Horse, had played in town. This is in Florida, and he said I was going home, and he said, "Well, why don't you come up to this party? The Crazy Horse is having a party, and I know them all." Mm-hmm. And well, I didn't know any of them, so I believed him, of course. I went with him, and
I know him.
And he shoved me in and shut the door. He took off. So I was at this party with everybody in the group that I didn't know anybody. So I went out on the balcony to get away from the party, and the drummer was out on the balcony, Ralphie Molina, who is a great drummer, and he's been playing with Neil for many years, and I played some guitar for him, and he didn't say much then, but I got a letter from him a couple of weeks later, asking me to join the group, and I brought Mike came along with me, so they needed a piano player, so we brought him too.
Did you do any gigs with Neil Young?
No, we never played any gigs with Neil. We talked with him a lot, and got to see him a few times, but it was mostly just the band Crazy Horse that we were involved with, and trying to bring it up, get it out there where people could hear it. And Bruce Springsteen opened for us. A lot of wild people opened for us.
Whoa, tell me about this.
While we were touring, we toured for a couple of years with the band, and we went to New York, and we were wondering what new music was going to be like, and we were going to try and be a part of it, even though Crazy Horse had a long old tradition of certain kind of music. We were going to try and break out a little bit.
Yeah.
And we got a gig with Springsteen, and nobody knew who he was or anything. None of us had ever heard of him. And we got down in the dressing room, and Clarence Carter came down, and we started talking to Clarence, and then Bruce came down, and after I talked to Bruce for a while, I took him over to the other guys in the group who were the senior members of the group, right?
Yeah.
We were the juniors, and I took him over. I said, "You guys got to meet this guy, Bruce Springsteen, man. He's going to blow us off the stage, And Ralphie couldn't believe it.
Huh.
So I drug Ralphie out in the audience and made him listen to the whole first act, which is something he never used to do, Don't hear the first act.
What is that like when you're headlining? It's you ignore the first band pretty much?
Some people do, yeah. They just go through their scene, and to get ready to play, and they don't want to be, they don't want to be jogged. They want to get into a frame of mind of their own stuff, and that's understandable. But you can do too much of that, and then you don't really get in touch with anybody else, And
so a lot of bands kind of like psych up.
First acts are always the hottest acts anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of them,
Well, and a lot of them. I've seen some that aren't.
Some of them aren't so hot, you're right. That's for sure.
You're right. Most of them are.
The ones that really want to go, man. And,
Jay Giles' band, that's how those boys made it, blowing everybody off the stage.
Yeah, if you can get those opening for concerts, it's a great niche to get into, boy.
Yeah.
So Springsteen was great, of course. He was played a lot more in those days than he does now.
Well, he did a different kind of set back then. I understand he used to be more of a, it was a little bit more acoustic, I guess, but it was not as heavy-duty rock and roll as
well,
it is right now.
This particular night they were really loud. And he played a lot of guitar and a lot of piano.
Oh.
And it was like the bass player didn't have any front teeth, and he had like a fretless bass, and man, they looked like a bunch of, guys from the hills, man.
Yeah. Well,
fresh from somebody's garage, and they were awesome. Yes.
Huh. Boy, we got a lot to talk about here. We got Rick Curtis in, and Rick Curtis is a guy, used to be from Fort Wayne, surrounding areas here. I understand you were in the art college.
Yeah, I went to Fort Wayne Art School and got a real good...
What was that called, actually? Fort Wayne...
I think it was the Fort Wayne Institute of Fine Arts is what it was called at the time.
And that was incorporated into IPFW.
Yeah, and then other kids call it the Joint, and some of them call it the... Yeah, but it was the best school I think I've ever been to. I mean, I've been to others, and...
I've heard stories about the kind of people that used to go there.
That was after the war. I went right after the war, and a bunch of guys got out, from different branches of the service and took over the whole school, And the faculty's definitely, they're the greatest people. I owe them a lot, music-wise, to the faculty there and the school itself.
All right. Well, that's now part of IPFW. We got Rick Curtis in, and we'll be talking about some more of the current things Rick is doing as well. But Rick's been in the music business for quite a while. Of course, as you just heard there, opened up for Jimi Hendrix years ago, and he's got quite a few stories to tell concerning life on the road as a musician. What's it like when you go to a big act and they're going to record your tune? How does that process take place?
Well, with Fleetwood Mac, Lindsay, after we met Lindsay Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, they started to come over to our house a lot, and we had a dirt floor garage where we played music all the time, and we had the drummer from Todd Rundgren's old band, Tom Mooney, who was in Naz and Paris and a few other groups, and he we had him set up, and we just go back there and play all the time. Lindsay Lindsay was from San Francisco, and he'd never seen a situation quite like ours, and a dirt floor garage, and just go in there and play anytime you want, and no formalities. And so he ended up playing a lot with us, and he started producing some tracks, and he ended up loaning us his 4-track machine, which we had for 3 years, and he enabled us a lot to get some of the things we needed, some places we needed to go, and from there we let's see, I don't want to get lost here. What was your original question?
What's it like when you're going to put up, when they use your song, do they call you up and say, hey, guess what, we're going to put Blue Letter on the record, you're going to make a lot of money. Now you also co-wrote Southern Cross.
Yeah.
Who'd you co-write that with?
Well, that was one of my songs 7 years ago that I wrote, and my brother arranged it, and Lindsey Buckingham produced it in the studio with Stevie Nicks and my sister singing all the backup vocals. And so it was a real impressive 24-track recording, and when Steve heard it, I think it really got to him because it was a state-of-the-art, good recording,
Now, didn't he?
Good production.
Did he take part of the co-writing?
Oh yeah, he wanted to rewrite it some, and I thought that was okay because.
What's that like when they rewrite it and you go, no, it's.
Well, it's the original idea was a guy chasing a woman around the world,
Yeah.
And his world or her world or it was that kind of a thing, the pursuit, of love, and Steve, I didn't think Steve could write anything that much different about it, because we all feel the same things, so.
Yeah.
And he did. He made it sound really good, I thought, it was, we all basically are after the same things,
Yeah, right.
So.
All right, well, I tell you, let's hit up some music here.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, speaking of Steve Stills, this is Steve back in his days with Buffalo Springfield, and we'll also play Southern Cross, and then we'll play your version of Blue Letter. When we started out Nuggets, we played a Fleetwood Mac version. Let's play a version by the Curtis Brothers. All right? 10:32 in the morning, you're listening to a special Rock 104 WXK, the home of rock and roll. On this Sunday morning, you're listening to Nuggets, a special Christmas edition here with Rick Curtis. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Rick.
I was taking a look at this, the Curtis Brothers. What were you telling me? It's in the Rolling Stone book.
Yeah, it's in the Rolling Stone Book of Records with 3 stars, which is
3 stars.
Which is not much, but it took 10 years for it to get into the Rolling Stone Book of Records. It's a 10-year-old album.
All right. Now,
which is kind of weird.
Now, this is on Polygram, right?
Yeah,
Didn't you have a Capitol contract at one time, too?
Yeah, we had one of those for singles. We never got an album out on Capitol.
Really?
But
all right. I remember that. This was a very critically acclaimed LP. All right?
But yeah, people liked it. It wasn't a big seller, but
yeah.
But it was our first
So it means
album.
all the musicians passed it around and listened to it.
Yeah, really, that helps too. It's
So I got a question. I got a rude question. How much money did you make on Southern Cross?
Oh God, I wish I could talk about it.
Really?
I couldn't talk.
Not enough.
But I can tell you about the Fleetwood Mac one.
Really?
We made $300,000 off of that, and that was only one song on the album.
Off of Blue Letter?
Yeah.
$300,000.
Not all of which we saw, but.
How does that?
But it was on the top 10 album charts for 10 weeks, which was a big record in those days. And
a lot of musicians.
Prince wiped that out, I think.
Yeah, that's true. God, a lot of musicians end up suing their managers and lawyers and people like that. Yeah, you're a songwriter. Have you ever had to deal with that sort of thing?
No, never. Luckily.
Why does that sort of thing come up?
We haven't had that much success that we've ever had to worry about a manager.
Really?
Really. So we've only had a manager for this album. This Curtis Brothers album was gotten for us by Marshall Burl, who is the nephew of Milton Berle, who is also the manager of Rat.
Who got Milton in the video for Rat.
Who got Milton in the video. He's a great guy, Marshall Burl. He flies himself around. He's got a license, and he really helped us out. We'd been knocking around for 10 years when we met him, and he said, in a couple of days, he had the whole thing sewed up.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. You're trying for like 10 years, and all of a sudden you run into a guy who changes everything overnight. It's amazing.
What do you owe him your soul or what?
Well, if I could give it to him, I would.
All right. What's it like among? There must be a lot of competition in songwriting.
Oh yeah, it's friendly competition, one-upmanship, I guess you'd call it. There are guys writing songs in Nashville that are way far ahead of country music today. I mean, if people heard it, they'd flip out. It's unfortunately, a lot of country people aren't into real progressive music from their own people, like Nashville writers. But they're, as a worldwide thing, anything goes. It's really an open sort of a thing to do with your life. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than writing books. Because if you got a short attention span, it's the only thing to do.
How long does it take? Speaking of short attention spans, I understand Elton John claimed to write the music, at least, for his latest LP in a record time. I think it took him like 15 minutes to write the music for one of the hits off the latest LP. What does it take to put a tune together? How much time for it is?
Sometimes it takes me years.
Really?
Yeah, I hang on to lines for years, and a song will come together over a 3 or 4 year period, and it'll be real solid. Waited a while. It's kind of that kind of a thing, and I just wait for them to happen. I don't push them anymore, because I found that you really don't come out with real good stuff if you push it. For me that works, and also of course you have to make yourself available for the ideas. That could be that could cover just about anything. Coffee or grass or whatever gets you out there,
Yeah.
And it's like, so you have to be available, I think, to write songs.
You have to be in the right frame of mind.
Your attention has to be available, and but it's, I do it in my sleep. I mean, I get a tape recorder next to my bed, and I wake up out of a deep sleep and go, click, And,
Really?
Yeah, I do that, and it's real weird. You play it back at the end of the month. It's pretty strange, all those midnight. But eventually, sometimes things come out that are really, really profound. Not from me, but just being a go-between.
Don't a lot of bands write and put it together while they're in the studio?
That's a good place to do it if you have a certain calm going. A certain a lot of times it's real crazy when people are putting records together. And depends on the people, of course, the environment created, And I've been able to write in the studio because I had control over the studio at the time. Otherwise, it's the interruptions are many. So, but it's weird. Handling energy in a studio can make or break a group. It's really the money and all that stuff. We made this album from 1 to 5 in the morning for 2 months.
For 2 months, it took
for 2
that
months
long?
straight. Yeah, 1 to 5 in the morning.
Why 1 to 5? Is the studio time more affordable then, or?
Yeah, definitely. Sound City is one of the biggest studios in L.A., and we knew some people, and they said, well, we'll give it to you for $50 an hour, which is a real deal, because now it's like $200 or something like that, $250 in some places.
All right, let's try another track off the Curtis Brothers album. All right, this is the one on Polygram.
Right.
Are both of these out of print?
Yeah, they're deleted right now.
Are they? All right.
We're going to try and get them to re-release it, I think, someday. But
did you get to?
We have the tapes. That's why they haven't re-released it.
Did you get to pick the order of the tunes, or was that all?
Yeah, we did everything.
You did everything.
Yeah,
you had total
we got
control
to pick
over
everything. One of the few. We'll probably never get to do that again.
That's good. Yeah.